The silence between stars. Kezh'Tal awoke to silence. Not the silence of peace, but the hollow, scraping hush of death. No hum of engines. No voices. No systems chirping to life. Just the quiet groan of warped metal and the dull ache in his chest from breathing filtered air not meant to last this long. He blinked slowly, his secondary eyelids resisting the stale air. The soft glow of backup lighting cast the ruined interior of the Verashti Grace in muted shades of orange and gray. What was once a research vessel was now barely more than a floating tomb. He dragged himself up from the curled blanket of thermal foil he'd been sleeping in. His limbs trembled with fatigue, calcium depletion, low protein intake, atrophied muscles. He didn't need his training as a xenobiologist to diagnose it. He could feel himself fading. 7 months. 7 months since the pirates attacked. 7 months since the last crew member died from exposure in the breached medbay. 7 months since anyone had answered his calls for help. He had sent hundreds of automated distress signals. To Verashti outposts. To neutral relay stations. To every species with a fleet capable of jumping into this cursed edge of known space. Nothing. Kezh'Tal stumbled to the jury-rigged communications console. He passed bulkheads riddled with plasma scoring and broken conduits that spat the occasional spark. The ship's AI, once chirpy and alert, had long since gone silent, its core too damaged to repair with the tools he had left. Only the emergency systems kept him alive. The few batteries charged by solar trickles. The half-broken filtration unit he'd rebuilt 3 times. The nutrient paste dispenser that now gave more air than food. He sat, coughed, and pressed the cracked command interface. Broadcasting standard distress. Origin: Verashti civilian vessel. Critical failure. 1 survivor. Please, any assistance, coordinates attached. Repeating. His voice cracked mid-message, but he sent it anyway. He should have given up by now. Should have accepted the void, embraced the cold peace of finality. But every time he looked at the faces in the frozen crew manifest, his friends, his research team, the captain, he remembered he wasn't just surviving for himself. Someone had to carry the memory. Someone had to speak of the brutality, the betrayal, and the silence that followed. He laid his head down on the console. His vision blurred, exhaustion overtaking him again. The repeating signal echoed softly behind him, a ghost's whisper in a dead ship. And then, a chirp. Soft. Electronic. Not from the ship. From the long-range receiver, wired directly into the emergency power bank. He froze. No more than static at first. Then a broken ping. Then a signal handshake his system hadn't seen before. Something old. Ancient, by galactic standards. Protocols from a species barely a few centuries into interstellar travel. He scrambled to translate. The console sparked again. A harsh burst of static made him wince. Then, clearly, undeniably, words in galactic standard, tinged with a Terran accent. Signal received. This is Terran Strategic Vessel Valor's Wrath. Assistance en route. ETA. 36 minutes. Hold on. Kezh'Tal stared at the message. Read it twice. 3 times. He'd heard of Terrans. Everyone in the galaxy had. Their expansion had been violent, their diplomacy unpredictable. Half the galaxy feared them, the other half didn't trust them. But no one ignored them. And no one, expected a Terran warship to answer a Verashti call for help. Kezh'Tal felt a tremor begin in his limbs. Not from fear. Not from weakness. Hope. For the first time in months, it felt real. Like fire catching in a frozen forest. He pressed a trembling hand to his chest and whispered a silent thanks to whatever gods or forces ruled this vast, uncaring galaxy. Help was coming. And it bore the flag of a species known for doing the impossible. Steal salvation. Kezh'Tal had imagined a lot of things in his long months alone. Rescue ships. Scavengers. Maybe even a Verashti patrol, long lost and improbably returning. He had never imagined this. The Terran warship dropped out of FTL like a thunderclap, reality rippling around its arrival. He stared through the shattered viewport at the vessel now dominating his vision. It was angular, brutal in design, black hull with streaks of matte gray and deep red. Along its side were faint markings in Terran script, TSV Valor's Wrath. And it was enormous. No escort. No diplomatic vessel. Just a single ship, bristling with weaponry, scarred from previous battles, and undeniably alive. His comm unit crackled. Verashti vessel, this is Commander Julia Royce of the Terran strategic vessel Valor's Wrath. We have you on visual. Prepare for boarding and medical assistance. Kezh'Tal's mouth was dry. He fumbled with the comms. Acknowledged. Systems unstable. Airlock 2 is functional. Copy. Approach in 90 seconds. Sit tight. The transmission ended with crisp efficiency. He staggered to Airlock 2, heart pounding. It had been sealed for months, patched with foam and scrap plating to keep it from venting atmosphere. He checked the emergency beacon, blinking green. Then he waited. The docking sequence clanged through the hull. He felt it more than heard it, massive clamps biting into the ship's skeleton. A hiss of pressurization followed, then silence. And then, the door opened. The figure that stepped through was smaller than he expected, but no less imposing. Human. Female. Mid-40s, maybe. Black tactical armor etched with Terran insignia. A sidearm strapped to her thigh, and a rifle slung across her back. Her face was lined, stern, but her eyes were sharp and steady. She scanned the corridor once, then fixed her gaze on him. "You Kezh'Tal." He managed a nod. "We're here to help. Med team's 30 seconds behind me." Her voice wasn't warm, but it wasn't cold either. Just solid. Grounded. Like she was the one constant in a universe of chaos. She stepped forward and caught him as he stumbled. "Easy. You're dehydrated, probably malnourished. Sit down." He did. The floor felt like it was spinning beneath him. The commander knelt beside him, already checking vitals with a handheld scanner. 7 months, she asked quietly. "Yes." "Since the pirates." She didn't ask for details. She didn't offer hollow words. Instead, she stood as her medics arrived, 2 more humans in white and gray armor, moving quickly, efficiently. They spoke in clipped tones, assessing, injecting, stabilizing. Kezh'Tal's vision swam. Somewhere in the background, he heard Royce giving orders. Secure his logs. Transfer core memory from the NAV array. He said pirates, we might get IDs. Kezh'Tal stirred. You're going after them?" Royce looked down at him. "If they're still out there?" "Damn right we are." There was no bravado in her voice. No anger. Just certainty. She turned to leave, but hesitated. Then she looked back at him. "You hungry?" He blinked. "Yes." "Good. We'll feed you. Then we'll burn the bastards that did this." Later. The medbay aboard Valor's Wrath was a sterile but oddly comforting place. The hum of systems. The subtle gravity stabilizers. The soft rhythm of human music playing somewhere in the distance. It was all strange, but it felt alive. Kezh'Tal sat on the edge of a diagnostic bed, a nutrient 4 in one arm, his other cradling a warm protein ration. Human food. Spiced. Heavy. Real. A holographic display hovered nearby, showing his ship's internal logs as they were transferred and translated. Commander Royce returned, hands behind her back. "We got the logs. Confirmed it was a pirate syndicate, Garn Threx's group. Been raiding fringe systems for months." Kezh'Tal's grip tightened. "They killed everyone." "We know. We're familiar with Threx. Never caught him in the act, until now." He looked at her, unsure. "Why help me? I'm Verashti. We have no treaties. No alliances." Royce shrugged. "Doesn't matter. You were dying. You asked for help. We answered." She stepped forward, lowering her voice. "The galaxy's big and ugly, Kezh'Tal. But you're not alone in it anymore." He stared at her, something hot welling behind his eyes. For months, he'd been nothing. A ghost on a dead ship. Now, someone had seen him. Answered. Saved him. "Thank you." Royce nodded once. "Rest now. You're safe." Fire from the void. The Valor's Wrath slid through the dark like a blade unsheathed. Kezh'Tal stood on the bridge, still weak but upright. He wore a clean uniform, plain gray with no insignia, but it was more than fabric. It was dignity, after months without it. The human medics had offered rest. Commander Royce had insisted he could stay off duty. But Kezh'Tal had asked, no, demanded, to be present when justice arrived. Ahead, the display showed the asteroid cluster known as the Scourged Maw, a jagged nest of drifting rocks, cave systems, and hidden docking bays. Perfect for a pirate stronghold. And perfect for an ambush. Commander Royce stood at the center of the bridge, arms folded. Focused. Status, she asked. Stealth systems engaged. No sign we've been detected, replied her XO, a dark-skinned man named Beckett. Threx's flagship is docked on asteroid Delta 5. Defenses are minimal. They weren't expecting anyone to come knocking. Royce turned to Kezh'Tal. You recognize any of this? He nodded. A hollow pit formed in his chest. That, he pointed at a docking spire partially embedded in a crater, was where they brought my ship. I was unconscious when they left. I think they stripped the others for tech. Cargo. Bodies too. Her jaw tensed. She didn't speak for a long moment. Then we don't give them a chance to run. She turned to her crew. Red alert. Battle plan Helix 3. Target engines first. No external comms. Board if we must, but no heroics. In and out. Surgical. A chorus of, "Aye, Commander," rippled through the bridge. And then, the human war machine moved. The first volley hit before the pirates even knew they were under attack. 2 precision rail slugs punched through the main power conduits on asteroid Delta 5. Lights flickered. Shields failed. The second strike knocked out long-range communications. Panic lit up the cluster. Small ships scrambled to escape, but Valor's wrath was faster. Gun batteries on the Terran warship roared, disabling thrusters, vaporizing fighters mid-turn. It was not a battle. It was a warning wrapped in thunder. Kezh'Tal watched it unfold on the tactical display, dots flaring out like dying embers. "No wasted shots," he whispered. "You could have destroyed the whole base." Royce answered without turning. "Slaughter's easy. Precision earns fear." A boarding pod launched. Inside, Royce led the breach team herself, something Kezh'Tal didn't expect. She moved like she belonged in a storm. Her team fanned out into the station's metal corridors, sweeping through with brutal efficiency. Kezh'Tal followed under guard, not by force, but by necessity. He wanted to see Threx. He needed to. Bodies littered the hallways. Some stunned. Some dead. Others surrendered without resistance, weapons thrown down, hands raised high. Finally, they found him. Garn Threx. Massive. Scaled skin, 4 arms, cybernetic eye glowing red. He stood behind a shield wall, shouting commands at a dying console. "Drop it, Threx," Royce said, rifle raised. "You have no jurisdiction here," he spat, voice booming. "This is neutral space. You made it our business the moment you raided a ship carrying civilians." "Verashti trash," Threx sneered. "Barely worth." The impact of Kezh'Tal's voice cut through like a blade. "Say one more word." Everyone turned. Kezh'Tal stepped forward, shaking, eyes locked on the pirate who destroyed his life. Threx scoffed. "One rat survived, did he?" "No," Kezh'Tal said quietly. "A witness survived. And he brought the storm." The shield dropped with a hiss. Threx reached for his weapon, but Royce fired first. Not a kill shot. Straight through the leg. Threx howled, dropped like stone. "Alive," she barked. "I want him alive." She turned to Kezh'Tal. "He stands trial. Your people deserve justice, not vengeance." Kezh'Tal's claws flexed. The rage in him burned like a nova. He could end Threx now. No one would stop him. But then he looked at Royce. At the soldiers who had risked their lives. At the humans who had answered a call they didn't have to. He stepped back. "Then justice it will be." Hours later, as prisoners were loaded into cells and data from the pirate network was copied for analysis, Kezh'Tal sat in the observation deck, watching the asteroid field burn. Commander Royce joined him, holding 2 cups of something hot and bitter-smelling. "You did the hard thing," she said, handing him one. "You taught me how." She smiled faintly, just for a moment. "We're heading to a refugee station next. A Verashti colony near the Talis corridor. Could drop you off." Kezh'Tal looked out into the stars, glowing with a fire of vengeance delivered cleanly. "Maybe," he said. "But I think I'd like to stay. If there's room on the Wrath." Royce raised her cup. "There's always room for those who fight with purpose." Echoes of the forgotten. The stars had changed. Not in their arrangement, light years didn't shift so easily, but in what they meant to Kezh'Tal. Once, they had been a distant canvas of indifference. Now, they shimmered with possibility. It had been 3 weeks since Garn Threx had been captured. 3 weeks since Valor's wrath had struck like a blade through pirate-infested darkness and restored something Kezh'Tal thought he had lost forever. Purpose. He now wore the black and gray uniform of the Terran Auxiliary. Not an officer, he had no rank in their military, but a scientific advisor attached directly to the command crew. And, unofficially, a survivor whose testimony helped break a syndicate. His quarters were small, neat, and smelled faintly of metal and recycled air. But they were his. A soft hum of the ship's core thrummed through the walls like a heartbeat, reliable, steady. Life. A soft chime echoed. "Enter," Kezh'Tal said. Commander Royce stepped inside. She carried a datapad in one hand and a sealed box in the other. "You settling in?" "Better than I expected. Your crew has been accommodating. They respect what you survived." She placed the box on the desk beside him. "From your people. Verashti Colonial Council. Your full testimony helped indict Threx and 7 of his lieutenants. Trials begin next cycle." Kezh'Tal nodded, emotions warring behind his eyes. "They're actually listening. You made them listen." She paused, then pushed the datapad toward him. "We're headed deeper into the frontier. Intel says there's a fragment of Threx's network still active. Smuggling weapons. Slaves. You think they'll regroup?" "Terror doesn't die. It adapts." Kezh'Tal looked at the stars outside the viewport. "Then we adapt faster." Royce allowed herself a small smile. "That's the idea." She stood to leave, then hesitated. "You don't have to stay in this fight, Kezh'Tal. You've done more than anyone expected. No one would blame you for stepping away." "No," he said quietly. "If I stop now, I'd just be surviving again. And I've had enough of that." Royce gave a slow, approving nod. "We'll leave in 2 hours." Later, the ship cut through the void, heading toward another forgotten system where law meant nothing and cruelty thrived in shadows. But this time, Valor's wrath wasn't hunting ghosts. It was sending a message. In the war room, Kezh'Tal stood beside Commander Royce and Lieutenant Beckett, reviewing the tactical display. Dozens of pirate ships clustered near an old mining facility. Civilians, Verashti, Doranian, even a few Terran settlers, had been taken as collateral. The pirates assumed no one would come this far for them. They assumed wrong. "Deploying drone relays now," Beckett said. "Visual confirmation on 6 captives in the lower sector. Shields are patchy, but there's active resistance. They're armed." Royce studied the data. "Good. We'll breach from above. Drop team clears the command level. No long speeches. Just precision." Kezh'Tal leaned in, pointing to a specific corridor. "Here. That shaft's old mining access. Unshielded. You could slip a micro-team through without triggering external alarms." Royce raised an eyebrow. "You volunteering?" "You said I adapt." "I meant it." The raid. Kezh'Tal dropped into the shaft alongside 2 Terran Marines, weapons drawn, breath held. The space was tight, blackened by soot and neglect. But it was quiet. No alerts. They emerged behind the main generator room, where 3 pirates were monitoring energy flows. 1 turned, too late. 2 silenced shots. 1 stun grenade. No alarms. They moved swiftly, breaching the cell corridor. Prisoners gasped, shielding their eyes as doors hissed open. Kezh'Tal recognized a Verashti elder, her eyes wide with disbelief. "We heard the warship," she whispered. Did they really come for us? Kezh'Tal helped her up, voice steady. Yes. And they're not leaving without you. The rest of Valor's wrath erupted in coordinated fury. Engines disabled. Control towers crushed. The remaining pirates, sensing the storm, either fled or surrendered. Not one civilian was lost. Aftermath. The prisoners were treated. The pirates were bound. And the mining station, stripped of its horrors, was turned into a forward post for patrols. Kezh'Tal stood once more on the bridge, watching as the stars rolled past. Royce joined him again, quiet as always. You did well. We did well. She offered a rare smile. I think you've found your place. Kezh'Tal turned to her. I thought the galaxy had forgotten me. Left me for dead. But humans. He trailed off, struggling with the words. You don't abandon the call. Royce nodded slowly. No. We don't. Together, they watched the void ahead, no longer cold and empty, but full of purpose and fire.